Hey everyone. Well, I have turned into Hollywood. Instead of thinking of new ideas for videos, I'm just gonna do remakes. I'm Hollywood. So yeah, a while ago, I made a top 10 list on my favorite movie directors, and I'm not proud of it. Mainly since that top 10 list I did wasn't really even much of who my favorite directors are. It was more based on my favorite movies and who directed them. And to me, that just isn't really what I would say would count towards my favorite directors. Because all those directors I still think are good, but they aren't my favorite. They've only directed like two or three films, some of them have. Others, from that list, I guess, have a better impact, but most of them I just kind of praise for that one film I love so much. For this video, we're going to be looking more into my actual favorite directors based on, the amount of movies I've seen in them, how many great films they've made, how many good directing styles they can do. I'll actually do more of what my favorite directors are instead of just, my favorite movies, who directed them. So maybe I'm better than Hollywood for actually remaking stuff that deserves to be remade. I'll try not to compare myself to Hollywood, and I'll try to keep this video as its own, try not to focus too much on its predecessor. But just keep in mind, this is my actual list of my actual favorite directors based on the amount of movies I've seen from them, I enjoyed from them, and so just how much they've made, and they've directed, and brought us in fun style. So that's what it is. Instead of just being what my favorite movies are, who directed them. No, this is a better styled list. I'll probably do the same thing with my list of favorite actors and actresses, since those also have the same problem. But for now, let's just do my favorite directors. Let's look. The famous Ivan Reitman. Rest in peace, by the way. This guy brought us Ghostbusters, which is a great movie. So yeah, and he also brought us some other good stuff as well. He directed the first Ghostbusters movie, but before then, he also worked with Bill Murray a few times with movies like Meatballs or Stripes, which were pretty fun. And then he made the sequel, Ghostbusters 2, which wasn't as good as many people say, but I personally thought it was still pretty good. Along with that, he also worked with some other people like Arnold Schwarzenegger in Twins and Kindergarten Cop, which were fun movies. His directing style mostly consists of making movies that are funny, but also have a good serious side, a side that we can actually take seriously towards it. So, with the movies having a bunch of funny moments, they also kind of have a story arc that's can go in fun directions. Like Ghostbusters, for example. Many cite it as a really fun comedy. I cite it as a fun comedy that has a nice, fun edge to it as well. Instead of just being funny, it has a lot of great twists and turns surrounding it, along with all of his other movies. So maybe not all of his movies are great, but the ones that are good are both funny and interesting. I think that's what this director does best with. Another fun comedy director, John Landis. John Landis is responsible for making fun comedy movies, mainly revolving around duos and such. He made films like Blues Brothers, Trading Places, Coming to America. His style of comedy is mostly consists of duos, movies about a certain duo that go on this fun, crazy adventure involving all sorts of crazy stuff. That's kind of what his style mostly is, and I like that, I like seeing all these fun comedies where you can follow the duo in such crazy shenanigans and find how hilarious they interact towards them, whether it's their unawareness or their involvement in getting the job done, no matter what happens. And that's what does best. Probably my favorite of theirs would be maybe Blues Brothers in terms of how awesome it is and their action and stuff. Or maybe also Coming to America being the funniest one out of them all. I think in terms of directors of comedy films, there's a lot out there. There's Mel Brooks, there's David Zucker. My personal favorite would have to be John Landis. He provides some great stuff. Now, time for some more interesting moments. Quentin Tarantino is a crowd pleasing director who many know for his style of more homage films, making big, mature movies that like to pay certain homages to certain things, like Pulp Fiction being a tribute to old pulp magazines, Kill Bill being a tribute to old martial arts, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, most recent film, being a tribute to, well, old Hollywood. That's kind of like what he likes to do. He likes to make movies that pay tributes to old things that people forgot about, and he likes to go for a more mature side with each of them, like whether it's controversial or just too much. Yeah, his controversy can be fun as well, with movies like Reservoir Dogs being too violent or Django Unchained having the N-word said so many times. I like the way his controversy surrounds his movies. Pulp Fiction would probably be my favorite from his, because, it's has a lot of style. It goes in an out of order direction, and it does the best job at reminding us what exactly a pulp magazine would be like. I mean, I've never heard of him. I mostly just know about the movie, but I like the way he does with it. And all of his other movies are fun as well. I still trying to catch up with it. I still need to watch a few of his films. So far, I've seen a bunch. I just haven't seen all of them yet. But the ones I have seen are can range from pretty good to definitely make him a fun director. And of course, there's James Cameron. Everyone knows James Cameron for his immersive sci-fi movies. He made stuff like The Terminator, Aliens, Avatar, Titanic. It's his style. His style revolves around immersive sci-fi fantasies, or kind of being immersive in his stuff with groundbreaking visuals or interesting ideas. That's what he does with his movies. He made some of the most highest grossing films ever, with Avatar and Titanic crossing 2 billion, and the rest of his movies having a big amount as well. And of all his movies, I think Titanic would be my favorite. I know it's a weird kind of cliche white opinion, but I think Titanic just has the most interesting thing going for it. It's a idea, an old story that's told with a new form of characters and kind of giving us the immersion of what we should be familiar with. Yeah, I know it's, again, cliche, but I personally think Titanic's a great film, and all of his other movies are great as well. Some get interesting opinions, but overall, his direction he does with his movies, I personally am a fan of. Oh, Robert Zemeckis. The Robert Zemeckis to be exact, makes certain types of movies. He does a lot of stuff. I think his best style would be serious movies with a little bit of comedy thrown in, kind of like what he likes to do, maybe. He likes to make serious films with comedy blended in kind of in the middle. Like he made the Back to the Future movies, Roger Rabbit, Forrest Gump, Castaway, Polar Express. It's kind of what it is. He likes to try and focus on a more serious film, a story that we all can get amused by, all can follow in a serious tone. Also, there being some funny moments thrown in here and there. That might be what he likes to do. A couple of his movies I would say are pretty great, like Back to the Future and Forrest Gump are among some of my favorite movies ever, so that's kind of what Zemeckis is like. He's made those films. He's also done a lot of great some of his other movies as well. Unfortunately, he's made not very good ones nowadays. His great direction kind of stopped around the 2000s. Afterwards, he made not very good movies, so arguably nowadays his filmography isn't great, but from what he's made back then was pretty good. Like the movies he's made from around the 80s to 2000s, those were good movies. So even if his movies aren't as great now, we still can't forget all the great stuff he could provide us back then. Ron Howard. Ron Howard is an interesting director. I like to think of Ron Howard as somebody who doesn't really have a certain style. He mostly just makes whatever comes to mind. He would make movies like Apollo 13, which is a biography, a true story about a spaceship crash or something. He then would go on to make The Grinch, which is based on the classic Dr. Seuss book in a live action form. Or then he would make A Beautiful Mind, which is the weird immersive story of Russell Crowe in a interesting mindset. So you see, he kind of goes in different styles. That's kind of what I like about this director. He doesn't stick to one certain form like other directors. He likes to go back and forth with what he makes. He'll either make something incredibly serious or something incredibly silly. That's kind of what he does. He goes back and forth with what he does. He'll either take on a serious trope or take on a very interesting trope. So you don't really have a certain style with him. He'll just make whatever comes to mind. And that's what he does. He'll make something that's either based on a true story or something that's just based on what we want to see. That's kind of a good thing to see in this director, seeing all the interesting paths he goes. He doesn't take one path, he takes as many paths as he wants. And I think that's what gives him a good style with the movies he's made. Of course, there is Martin Scorsese. Of course, everyone talks about how great Martin Scorsese is, him being a crowd-pleasing director. His variety of movies is amazing. His biggest trope is gangster, or when he's not doing gangster, he would do a very mature. I think that's kind of what the thing is with his films. He likes to do mature films, movies that are long and very mature, have a very serious edge to them, can have lots of emotion, lots of crime, lots of serious stuff. No happy endings, no incredibly obvious stuff. It's just all surprises, whether it's based on a true story or based on something that he would think about. And, that's kind of the style of what that Scorsese likes to go with. He likes to try and give us something to be seriously struck for. He likes to do something that's not too funny or too complicated. It's something that's very serious and dramatic and mature. So, that's what he does. He makes long, mature movies. And they can also come off as controversial at times as well. Like, of course, there's Wolf of Wall Street, the most profanity you ever hear in a movie. Or there's his most recent film, Killers of the Flower Moon, which was incredibly long, but I say was still enjoyable for what it was. I think Goodfellas would probably be his best work in my opinion. Everyone says Goodfellas does his best, and I think it is. Because, Goodfellas has the style of any true crime story. It's kind of like the groundbreaking achievement of crime films. And, you can't get a crime movie that's better than what Martin Scorsese would give us. Right? Maybe, I don't know. Christopher Nolan. I praise Christopher Nolan's movies a lot. He just won his first Oscar with Oppenheimer. And I am so proud. Like, this guy, he deserved an Oscar a long time ago, and I'm glad he finally got one now. Oppenheimer's a great movie, but a bunch of his movies in the past are great as well. He likes to do very interesting forms of style. His best work comes from when he does his editing skills. That's kind of what he does best with his unique editing style. He used that editing to create such interesting ideas, whether it's going on a backwards timeline in Memento, or taking a dark superhero path with the Batman movies. Or, of course, taking a true story and giving it so much confusing ideas that we still are able to understand with, of course, Oppenheimer. So I've pretty much seen all of Christopher Nolan's movies. There are like 2 or 3 I still need to watch, so that's kind of it. I've only seen I've seen all of them. There's just I think 3 of his movies I have yet to see, but I'll definitely check them out when I can. Once I finally find them, I will definitely watch them because, man, this guy, he is a legend in his directing. He just knows how to edit things. His editing skills are perfect with the movies he makes. Every movie I see of his either is great or just worth talking about. Now, Tim Burton, I feel, needs more praise. I know it's weird to say he's better than Nolan, but I gotta say, Tim Burton is just masterclass in this form. Look at this picture of him I found. Even this picture just styles what he likes to do. Wacky, dark stuff. His style comes from being either too wacky or too gothic. It's kind of a mix of both in some movies. Like, one movie, he'll be so wacky. Another movie, he'll be very gothic. You got the wackiness in Beetlejuice. You got the gothic in Batman. You got the wackiness in Dumbo. I don't know why I brought Dumbo up. It's his worst film. But still, he likes to, go for those 2 directions. He'll be very wacky at times, but also like to go in a dark, goth direction. His art form is great as well. Batman is definitely his best work. While Christopher Nolan provided the better Batman movie, Tim Burton's Batman movie is still worth watching because it is also pretty amazing. And I think Tim Burton's style of all of his movies he makes are really great. I mean, he just knows how to confuse us with what weird art forms you see from him. And I think Tim Burton's style and all the different ways he goes are just so immersive. I swear, every time I watch a movie of his, I cannot look away from all the beautiful or incredibly dark visuals he provides. He's a great director in that form, and I think that's why I like him so much, because he keeps your eyes on the screen. You'll just want to look at how many craziness he'll give you. Yes, of course, Steven Spielberg is still my favorite director. He probably will always be, because every movie I've seen of his is just perfect in what they do. This man, Spielberg, likes drama. He likes emotion. He likes intrusive ideas. I think it's hard to explain exactly what his main style is, but he just knows how to entertain us. I think his best way to describe what style he likes to do something more of the lines of, I don't know, depth, maybe. He likes to give depth into every movie he makes. He'll make a movie and make sure that we're able to understand it as well as we can. Every movie he's made was pretty great. I think he hasn't made a single bad movie. Well, maybe he has, but I think most of his movies are great. Almost all of them are amazing. You got Jaws, you got E.T., Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park right now is my favorite of his, but I am still trying to watch more of his movies. I've seen so many to call my favorite, but there's still more I need to watch from him. So many more movies he's made, I gotta check out. So far, while I haven't seen every single one of his movies, the amount of movies I have seen from this man and how amazing most of them were just prove how much of a great director he is. I think Steven Spielberg is probably the best example of how to direct a movie. Anybody who wants to become a director likes to lay their eyes on this man, and there's a good reason. So yeah, it's cliche to call him a great director, but I can't help it. He's just so great. I'm sorry, man. I don't want to be predictable, but he's just a great director. I can't help it. Now, a couple of these directors on this list, I don't think ever remade a movie. Have they? Well, maybe some have, but me personally, I'm going to try and take a good path with those directors. I'm going to remake videos. That's right. I'm going to take videos I'm not proud of and remake them. Like, for example, this video is just the beginning. I'm going to be making a new list of my favorite actors and my favorite actresses. Like, the difference is, while Hollywood likes to remake movies that are already great, I'm going to try and focus on the videos I think deserve an upgrade because, I've made issues. We all make issues. Maybe Hollywood should focus on those. Focus on the movies that deserve to be looked at again. Instead of focusing on the stuff that made so much money, they should be like, cha-ching, let's make more money. No. Let's not focus on something that's not very achievable. Let's focus on something that's already achieved. Like, look at that. The Lion King. Wow, The Lion King. That was a great movie. It was entertaining. It made so much money. It got so much acclaim. It won Oscars. Let's remake it because, even though it was already perfect, let's just remake it so we can try to be more perfect. I don't know. Or look at that. Look at that movie. Look at Little Mermaid. Oh, that was a great movie. It saved Disney from its animation downfall. Oh, that did so much. Well, let's remake it. Let's try to throw as much lame CGI as we can. Let's try to be inclusive or whatever. Let's do that. Yeah. Me? No, I'm going to try my hardest to keep it at a good minimum. I'm going to try and remake the stuff I'm not proud of. So just keep in mind, if you see me doing a remake, I'll promise it'll be one for a video that I am not proud of.